Hello, people of St. Augustine. This past Sunday, we celebrated Pentecost, one of the great feast days we have in the life of our church. But the thing is, Pentecost is not as well, well celebrated or well appreciated or even well known as our big ones. And with big ones are, of course, Christmas and Easter. But Pentecost is so important because we call it as the birthday of the church. It's when the Holy Spirit came upon those early believers, and they had the courage and the power and the articulation of the gospel to other people. Luke, who wrote the book of Acts, where we get the story from, strains at the language of how to say this. He said they were gathered together in one place. A mighty wind came upon them, and tongues of flame appeared in their head, and then they began to speak as the Spirit gave them power. And they spoke to the people. Luke says about God's deeds of power, but the miracle, one of the miracles of it is they spoke not in their own language. They spoke in the language of the person that they were talking to. They spoke in a language they didn't know, and they spoke about God. They spoke about God's power. And Luke didn't tell us what they said. Now, I like to think about what did they say. They certainly spoke about God's power in creation, God creating the whole world, God's power in delivering the people in the Exodus out of slavery and bondage and taking them to the land, to their homeland, to Israel, and the parting of the Red Sea, the manna, all those things that God did. And Jesus, of course, Jesus, his resurrection, his love, his forgiveness. But I think they also spoke about what Paul tells us are the gifts of the Spirit. They spoke about love. They spoke about patience. They spoke about mercy and forgiveness and kindness and grace. They spoke about how those were working in their lives. They didn't talk about something they'd read. They talk about things they experienced. How God had changed them through God's love, through God's grace, through God's patience, and through God's mercy. And that had the power to change those who heard. Because they spoke with such conviction, the hearers knew that what they talked about was not just theirs, but rather it was theirs to share. And the sharing of it was the giving of it as well. The giving of those gifts of the Spirit. And that is what changed the world. And so what I want to talk to you about today and share with you is that let the Holy Spirit know, invite the Holy Spirit into your heart so that you will know and experience God's love, God's forgiveness, God's patience, God's grace, God's mercy. And be willing to share that with others. You don't even have to mention God, although it's always a good thing to do. Just speak words of love, words of patience, words of grace, words of mercy, and words of forgiveness. Those are gifts for us all. And the more we share it, the more this place will be like Jesus. Pentecost is a feast day to be shared. Share God's love, share God's grace, share God's peace. Love one another, take care of each other. Hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.